Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you to Wholesale Investor for giving us the opportunity to hear these fabulous emerging companies. These are the industries, a taste of the industries of the future. So what an exciting time to be in Australasian innovation. Opal Biosciences is developing drugs for hard-to-treat and deadly superbug infections. Did you know that penicillin was only introduced in the 1940s? Before that, infections like pneumonia, scarlet fever, tuberculosis and syphilis were deadly. And this is just an example of some of the news clippings that I got from Trove, the National Library of Australia. And if you Google poison finger death, you'll end up with quite a lot of entries up until about the 1940s. And then after that, it doesn't appear. And the same with scarlet fever. Our generation's had the benefit of effective antibiotics, but it looks like that effectiveness is wearing down fast. These headlines about infections resistant to the use of current antibiotics are increasingly frequent. This year, the G7 group of nations noted their concerns about the rising number of infections worldwide caused by antibiotic-resistant bacteria, and that in parallel, the number of effective antibiotics is falling steadily. The WHO is a specialised agency of the United Nations concerned with international public health. It came out strongly with a report last year on antimicrobial resistance, saying, "This is an increasingly serious threat to global public health. It means that standard treatments no longer work, infections are harder or impossible to treat, the risk of spread of infection to others is increased, illness and hospital stays are prolonged with added economic and social costs, and of course the risk of death is greater." So in the US, there's been a concerted effort to bring in policies to address antibiotic resistance. At the White House level, the problem is seen not only as a serious challenge to public health, but also national security. Part of the US's many approaches to address this situation is to increase economic incentives to antibiotic developers, and I'll go back to these. And in the UK, Prime Minister David Cameron commissioned a report from ex-chairman of Goldman Sachs Asset Management, economist Jim O'Neill. The Prime Minister said, "If we fail to act, we are looking at an almost unthinkable scenario where antibiotics no longer work and we're cast back into the dark ages of medicine." So what is the problem? Well, there are more reports of infections where antibiotics are not working like they used to. And this includes common infections like children's otitis media, middle ear infections, tuberculosis, scarily the sexually transmitted disease gonorrhea. There's 10 countries now where there's totally resistant disease reported for gonorrhea. Tuberculosis, drug-resistant tuberculosis, there's more than 630,000 people worldwide with drug-resistant tuberculosis, and a lot of those are just to the north of Australia, and golden staph, which is probably familiar to you. Infections that used to be rare are more common, and these tend to affect people with weaker immune systems. Scarily, Big Pharma that used to be the source of the new drugs that we would rely on have not been researching new antibiotics, and this is because the old ones were so effective, so new treatments are scarce. So the challenge facing us is well accepted around the world and provides the opportunity for us and Opal investors. Opal's technology has significant commercial potential. It's already shown activity against some serious disease-causing germs, as well as more everyday infections which are not life-threatening. It can be formulated into many different product types, and so it can be used for many different types of infections. It's already been screened by the US Military Research Institute in Infectious Diseases and has been accepted into one of their biowarfare defence programs, which we're in now. And because of the killing power of our technology already shown in the lab, we've been accepted into 2 National Institute of Health programs, one for resistant tuberculosis and one for the fungal disease pneumocystis. This positions us well in our current US commercial discussions. We also have patents which are granted worldwide. So what is Opal doing specifically? Well, you know infections can occur pretty much anywhere in the body. Right now we're developing an injection for serious infections like blood poisoning and other life-threatening hospital infections. And next we're targeting a gel to apply to the skin for infections in wounds and skin infections like impetigo and even tinea. And additional products will follow for gut and also for lung infections. And we've just opened discussions with Sydney University to look at pulmonary delivery. But our commercial objective is near term, and I've heard comments already today about the length of time that it takes to develop pharmaceuticals and the cost. We're doing a fundraising now to develop 2 core products, and the injectable product is in progress. But we're looking to exit within 18 months to 2 years. This slide just gives you a little taste of why we think we're onto a good thing. This is a column graph, and it shows with that orange dotted line at the top the drug concentration that we can achieve in animal models, and then each of those columns represents the amount of drug level that you need based on lab experiments to kill those particular organisms. So starting from the left, we've got Neisseria gonorrhea, which is gonorrhea, Campylobacter jejuni, which is a gastro bug, Haemophilus influenzae, which targets respiratory tract infection, and then we've got TB in the middle, Candida glabrata, Scedosporium prolificans and Pneumocystis carinii, which are all very serious fungal infections that tend to affect patients which have had oncology treatment or who are immunosuppressed. So we can already reach higher than those MICs for those organisms. So this is our plan and what we're raising, capital raising for now. So this takes us through the development of those 2 products. The top one, Opal I, is the injectable, and then the bottom one, Opal T, the topical product. And this is over an 18-month to 2-year period, and this builds on work that's already been done to date. So what makes this an attractive investment opportunity for you? Well, we're in a very large and growing market with few competitors, and the need for new drugs is recognised worldwide. US government incentives are very important, and in particular, they're already in place and we are already accessing them. Importantly, large pharma companies are coming back to this sector because they've severely cut their in-house R&D, not just in anti-infective development, in other areas as well, but particularly in anti-infectives. So they're having to buy in the innovation that they need. So small companies like Opal are reaping the benefit of that. Our results to date have allowed us to access US programs, and they're ongoing. And we're using an experienced drug development team to develop these products to FDA standards. Now, this demonstrated market need is fueling growth in this sector, and it's driving very high value M&A activity. And this, one of the most recent deals is just 10 months ago when Merck acquired Cubist, an anti-infective developer, a small company, for $8.4 billion. Roche is also moving into this sector, having done quite a few deals in the last 2 years. The United States is on the front foot in providing incentives for companies like us. These incentives get a product to market faster, they give you assistance with the FDA, they give you longer market exclusivity, and the cost of development overall is lower. The US is the market that we are targeting, and we're on the radar of a number of companies already. Our development plan is being accomplished through an international network of experienced groups. With Griffith University, we just were approved for an ARC linkage grant for $250,000 in July. Our concept is to develop products to treat infections which will be commercially successful and potentially life-saving to patients. First an injection and then a skin treatment. Our objective is to sell these technologies to US-based acquirers within 2 years, aiming at the US market for final development, or we float. Our current fundraising is fueling this plan. Our offer is open now, and I'd like to invite you to join me as a shareholder in Opal. Thank you for your time.